This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to tune in to my Instagram Live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. A quick 15 minutes from the PR Garage here, where I work and record the podcast and do everything else that I do. We check in on what's going on in the PR news cycle. We play a game called Why Is This News, where I grab a story and I talk about why I think it made the news and what I think it took to make it news. You know, we sort of deconstruct the story a little bit, go down into the parts of, what made sense to send to the reporter, that kind of stuff. And also want to hear from you. So tune in every Thursday, 2 p.m. Instagram on my personal handle at Jody Fisher. And check it out. Contribute to the show, send us ideas for Why Is This News, and of course, let us know what's going on in your world. Now let's get on with our show for today. We've got a great guest. Mady Lanni is a digital PR strategist at Journey Further in the U.S. and works with clients ranging from Fortune 500 companies to small business owners. She's passionate about delivering high-quality results through strong relationships with media, securing dozens of direct placements and links for clients through newsjacking, following trends, and other creative PR strategies. Outside of work, she's a full-time cat mom and an aspiring world traveler. Mady, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
All right, let's take care of business first. Who's the cat?
Yeah, so I have a little kitty. Her name's Phoebe. She's about 3 years old. We rescued her from a shelter.
Oh, that's fantastic. We just
Yes.
rescued a dog from a local shelter of ours, in fact. So we are new to the rescue game, but we absolutely love them. Rescues are awesome.
Yes, they are. We call her our little trash cat because we don't no idea what kind of breed she is, but we knew that she was definitely a stray before.
Hey, as long as she's yours, that's great. That's awesome.
Yes.
Terrific. Well, so tell us about your work with Journey Further. Acclimate us to what you do on the daily.
Yeah, so I've been with Journey Further here for almost 2 years now. Gosh, that's crazy to think about. We started in the US, I think just about 2 years ago as well. I was one of the first members of the US team for digital PR. So day to day, really kind of what that looks like is helping kind of build out what this team is for the US and working on the digital PR as a strategist. I'm kind of like leading PR strategy and leading clients on day to day work along with helping associates with their outreach strategies and those different angles to try to help things land in the media and help with those newsworthy stories.
That's great. What are some of those clients? Where do some of those clients live? What industries are we talking about?
Yeah, so we have clients ranging from the tech industry to self-tanners to we have some fashion clients as well. So kind of all across the board. That's one of my favorite things about being agency side is that it's so many different topics and different niches that I get to kind of have my hands on. And so I feel very well-rounded in that sense. And it makes the day-to-day fun because one day I could be talking about PDFs in the tech space, and then the next day I could be talking about like self tanner and trying it myself as well.
Yeah, no doubt that for folks like you and me with mild cases of perhaps ADHD, we like throttling back and forth across different things. We can't. I never succeeded in in-house. I've had some in-house jobs and I failed miserably at them because it's just to me it's always the same old thing over and over and over again. And being able to go back and forth across different subject matter areas and different ideas suits
Yeah.
me a lot.
Yeah, no, I definitely thrive in that more like high speed kind of environment, and it keeps my brain fresh too because I'm like always thinking about all of these different avenues.
Well, speaking of variety versus
Mhm.
one-note topics, you wanted to talk today about how you make boring topics newsworthy to journalists. That is kind of our calling here, but how do you go
Yes.
about it?
Yeah, so, we've all been there with these like topics that might not be the most interesting subject matter. I'm sure anyone listening can probably like think of that one client that they've had that's been maybe a little bit harder to get out there. I think to kind of explain this, it's probably better to share some examples of like how we've gotten coverage for these quote unquote boring topics. So currently, we work with a document editing software, which on its face, editing documents is not the most exciting thing out there. We can all say it. But despite this, we've really been able to still secure hundreds of pieces of coverage for this brand. And really, the key to doing this is just simply being relatable. I mean, the stories that we want to create, we want it to be relevant to the brand, but also relevant to the journalists and what's happening in the world so that their readers um, can just like relate to what's happening. And so, for example, we talk a lot about PDFs with this specific client. And I'm not going to lie, talking about PDFs and making PDFs newsworthy is probably one of the most challenging topic areas I've ever had to do with PR. But with our creativity, we've been able to kind of dig into like these little aspects of what makes PDFs like relatable and newsworthy. So we always go into our ideations ahead of time for any client, not just for this one. Kind of just going in prepared, knowing like what the client is all about. So for in this sake, we really want to know like what industries would actually use PDFs in their day to day. So after doing some digging and some research, we know that like lawyers, real estate, even down to just like people in day to day business are ones who probably are the ones using PDFs the most. So that's really who we know this is probably going to be interesting to. But we also like to think of like other use cases as well that these brands might have to try to maybe even expand the audience even more. So we go into it from the very, very beginning, kind of thinking about like how we can make this relatable to everyday news. Um, so like from that, we can come up with ideas. Going back to the PDF one, it's the easiest one to chat about right now. Is so like another use case that we would have for that is we actually at the time had an intern working with us for a semester of college, and he let us know like, hey, a lot of my textbooks right now are PDF versions. Is there anything we can do with that? And so having kind of that like insight of like something that's happening in the real world kind of helped helped our wheels turn a little bit. And we were able to take that and create an entire like guide for how to like hack your PDF textbook and getting coverage directly to this specific document tool. And we catered it and tailored it to those writers that would be covering that. So in this case, we did it for like Mac users versus PC users, which is very key, especially everyone in college has a laptop nowadays. And so that way it could be catered to whatever their readership is. And so going back to just being relatable is like the biggest thing here, and just trying to draw on those real life stories.
Yeah, speaking and pitching to the audience of the reporter
Mhm.
is so important, right? You're never just talking to the reporter, you're talking to their audience. And a great topic there in terms of turning textbooks into PDFs. As the dad of two, and I watch my 12-year-old daughter walk out the door every day with what looks like 50 pounds worth of books on her back. I'm
Yes.
trying to figure out why we have Chromebooks. Why aren't all these books on a computer or a tablet somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just those things like that, even though for like the brand, it might just seem like, oh, like PDFs, but for other people, it's like that could be like the solution. So we like to present those solutions as part of that like relatability. And so like, kind of going to what you just said too, just like really putting yourself in the shoes of not only the writer, but thinking about what their audience kind of wants to. And so that's really how we tailor all of our emails as well, is we kind of think that like larger picture. So not only do we personalize just for like the journalist, but we want to make the story be something that would entice more readers to actually read the piece too.
Yeah, for sure. Envisioning that finished product.
Mhm.
Um, as you're getting those kinds of stories out there, I've got to imagine too that you are either intentionally or perhaps accidentally, that's a rough word, creating subject matter experts, creating experts in a particular area. Like, okay, now the person who's at the client who does the interview about this particular topic with the PDFs. Now suddenly they become a subject matter expert on PDFs for any reporter they're talking to. Do you like then sort of converting those people into subject matter experts who you can bring back to those reporters again?
Yeah, so I think that everything kind of a case by case basis there, but we definitely have seen, especially like with this specific example, there's been a couple reporters who have definitely asked for that like extra interview or insight from like subject matter experts on the tool. So we've been able to like leverage that, and it actually just so happens like the client that we're working with on this has then also been able to kind of use it on their side as well, and been able to like work with their subject matter experts, kind of get them trained up on like media, and then we can use them. And we've been like leveraging that to other journalists as well. And then we've had those same journalists then come back to us and say, hey, like we loved working with you. We love this expert. Can you give us some more? So definitely seeing that come up pretty often nowadays.
Yeah, the rise in the use of expert commentary is in one way nothing new, and in another way new all the time, right? I mean,
Yes.
reporters need subject matter experts. They need people who they can quote
Mhm.
to give their audience intelligent information. How do you find using subject matter experts, and what reporters do you find like using subject matter experts most?
Yeah, so like you just said, it's nothing new in the world of PR, but we are seeing like such a drastic increase in it this year, specifically in digital PR methods as well. But to answer your question, like there's really not one vertical that we're seeing stand out above any other ones. I mean, we've gotten requests from people who are in the career space, from beauty, lifestyle, all the way down to like lawn care. So it's really something that I think is just kind of happening through every vertical out there. I like to kind of say that's probably due to the various helpful content updates that Google's been putting out over the last year. So basically, Google's basically come out and said like they want to see more of this like helpful people first content to help with SEO goals. And so I think a lot of publications are seeing the impact that including this like authoritative commentary on their own publications is having an impact on like clicks and SEO value on for their own site. So it's likely that they're now pushing their staff and their writers to kind of include this more often, because it just makes their pieces more authoritative. So definitely could be attributed to like the rise that we're seeing.
There is definitely some analytical motivation in there, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, that articles. I mean, people go on. Let's be honest. People go online a lot of times to ask questions to things they don't know. How do I do this? How do I do that?
Hmm.
What is this thing? And the more, like you said, authoritative information, the more subject matter experts that can be quoted in pieces, those stories are going to rise to the top. So it makes sense that media outlets, maybe not necessarily newspapers every day, but especially like trade journals,
Yes.
specialty magazines, parenting, men's, women's, kids, on down the line, car magazines. I mean, lawn care. You said lawn care, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That they're going to want to write these articles, these how-to, these what's wrong with this kind of articles, because those are going to start floating to the top, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's why they're trying to get more of that like expert insight on some of those topic areas. But I also think that kind of brings up another good point, though, that like when providing expert commentary, the subject matter expertise, that it's more than just giving writers like words on a page. You really want to make sure that you are giving them, or whatever subject matter that you're working with, that you're helping kind of guide them to give that commentary that's going to add that expertise and add that authority. um, so you want to be able to like provide that value to the journalist. So for example, I was working with a client in the travel space, and we were outreaching a piece around like the increased travelers like since the pandemic, and a writer at the New York Times had asked for a quote. And so instead of just like saying like, yeah, we're seeing an increase, I worked with that subject matter expert to pull data from TSA numbers to actually like be able to like quote some verifiable data in it, and to kind of increase the value of that quote, just to show more authoritativeness and expertise on what was being said versus just kind of being like a blanket statement on something. So if you can, definitely, if there's any sort of like data that you can leverage, whether that's external, internal data also always goes a long way as well. If there's any like snippets that you can share, customer data, anything like that, that could maybe just like add to the story, or any sort of insights to your experts, your subject matter expertise, just to kind of help show and provide that value. It just goes such a long way with journalists, as well as being timely too. That's a whole other thing too. Getting those quotes back in like a reasonable time frame, definitely like win some brownie points, I think.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a subject matter expert give an opinion on something or
Hmm.
say something is a certain way. It's another thing, and as you said, far more valuable when that can be backed up by data, and data that no
Exactly.
one's ever heard before, or data that is proprietary or, specific to that company, that subject matter expert, that vertical
Yes.
audience, whatever that is. Yeah, so smart. And what did the reporter in that situation think of that extra mile you went?
Oh, I mean, there was like no notes on it. We ended up getting the coverage in New York Times within a few days. So I think they enjoyed it.
No notes. There you go. The ultimate
No
compliment,
notes.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Now let's segue off of subject matter expertise into something that is, I guess, maybe adjacent but still
Okay.
different. The concept of newsjacking, and newsjacking it can probably get a bad rap,
Hmm.
because it can be perceived as negative. But give me some examples of how you like to employ newsjacking. Maybe first define what it is, and then tell me how you use it.
Yeah, so newsjacking or reactive PR, I know those are kind of interchangeable there. It's really when you hop on like a trending news story, with either it could be expert commentary led, it could be data, it could be product PR. There's a lot of different like avenues for it, but it's just basically trying to be like the first one out, to the news, and if that makes sense. So basically just trying to like hop on that news and get your client to be at the front of it. Um, so it kind of ties in with what we were talking about a little bit earlier about kind of creating that relevant and relatable PR content, because when done right, you can be put into something that is trending like nationwide, and it could be so relatable to what your brand is. So for example, here, if you're a fashion brand, there's really a lot of opportunities for this moment. So if a new TV show drops or there's a trend popping off on TikTok, definitely a chance for you to like hop on those stories and newsjack it really quickly. So last year we were working with a fashion retailer, and this happened around the Barbie movie, which I don't think I need to explain how crazy that phenomenon was. I think everyone had pink all over their news feeds. But we actually took this a step further. And instead of just sharing a bunch of pink products that they had on their site, we actually curated different get the looks, based off of when the first movie trailer dropped. So we knew that that trailer had dropped within 24 hours. We recreated the looks with different pieces that the site had on their, styles that the site had on, and we were able to get the outreach material put together and send it out to press within, like I said, within 24 hours of that trailer dropping. And so we sent this out to journalists in the fashion space and received coverage on Refinery 29, Cosmopolitan, Ebony, Yahoo. It blew up. And then we actually were able to, a few months later, Barbie was still, I mean, I think that was Barbie was the topic of 2023. Like, but
It was
we,
all so long. Did a little bit of it myself. Go ahead.
yeah. But we were actually able to repurpose this too into around Halloween. We used basically the exact same content, just tweaked some of the lines. And because we saw that Barbie, or we predicted that Barbie was going to be like the Halloween costume of the year. So we got it out really early and we're able to get featured in Culturess and Hello Beautiful, among some other publications. All from simply just newsjacking the idea of Barbie, and kind of that moment that was relatable to everybody. We were able to kind of just insert ourselves into that news.
And that proves the point of what we talked about earlier, which is
Hmm.
delivering news, information, and ideas that are relevant to the audiences that the
Yes.
reporter serves, right? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I think that at the end of the day, I mean, journalists are writing news. Yeah, it's their job, but they also want to make sure that the news that they're writing is engaging for their audience. And so, as PRs, I mean, what we could do to help that is just creating these stories like from the get go, just kind of keeping the audience in mind just as much.
Do you have looking at your crystal ball here a little bit? I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but we've got, we're about halfway through 2024 or so. We've got lots of things coming in the second half of this year. Are there opportunities for newsjacking stories or things that are going to happen that you're already starting to eye up?
I would say just keeping an eye on like movie releases. I know that there's quite a few new like big Disney movies coming out. I know like Moana 2 was just announced recently. So kind of keeping an eye on things like that. If any sort of trends pop off the back of like TV show premieres, like I know the second season of or third season, I don't follow, but Bridgerton recently came out. So that's probably going to end up being something around like Halloween because it's just become such a big not like that's a worldwide phenomenon. I know our UK team members also have talked a lot about that. But also just I would just say in general, just monitoring things, like just making sure you're really monitoring the news, keeping up with those TV movie releases, and also just TikTok trends. I think TikTok is probably one of the most useful tools when it comes to like reactive newsjacking. It's usually you can usually see when trends are about to kind of like pop off, or if you start seeing like a song being replayed, that sort of a thing. Definitely something to kind of keep an eye on this year.
Fantastic. We will definitely do that. Mady, thanks so much for spending time with us here. We are going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Mady Lanni from Journey Further, tell us rapid fire question number one. What is your favorite news source?
I think right now, probably because I work a lot in the career space. So I follow employee benefit news and HR Brew a lot. But my husband gets a Wall Street Journal delivered to our house every day. So I definitely kind of skim through that for the bigger news.
There you go. Rapid fire question number two. What's your favorite social media platform?
For professional Twitter, I'm calling it Twitter. It's not X. And for my personal Instagram.
We love the pictures. We definitely love the pictures. Rapid fire question number three, coffee or alcohol?
Oh, coffee, 100%.
All right. How you drinking the coffee?
So I'm a decaf drinker. I can't drink caffeine, which I know kind of defeats the purpose, but just a little splash of cream and maybe a cube of sugar in it.
Sounds good. Rapid fire question number four. What's your favorite on the run food?
Ooh, I love a good sandwich, specifically like the Italian sandwich from Jersey Mike's. If you know, you know.
There you go. There you go. And rapid fire question number five. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
Ooh, I don't really plan on finishing this career anytime soon, but I always thought it would be fun to be like a professional organizer or decorator. It's kind of something that I do in my pastime.
There you go. That makes sense for PR people that we're also organizers.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would have guessed?
Right, exactly. Mady, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much again for having me. But you can find me, my website is MadyLanniPR.com. You can find me on Twitter at Mady Lanni PR. And then I am on LinkedIn, just my name, Mady Lanni.
Wonderful. We'll look you up, Mady. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.